Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SheShed. Tonight, I am super excited to be in the SheShed. I have a phenomenal guest, and if you've been following me at all, you know you have seen at this point that I have talked a lot about her. Um, but her name is Brenda Ray White. And I met her. I don't even we have to ask her how did we even meet. I know it was on social media. So I think it was something she posted. Oh, I know what it was. She was talking about her second birthday. That's exactly how it was that we met. And she was talking about her second birthday, and I'm gonna let her tell you what her second birthday is, but it's a phenomenal story. She is the mother of one daughter. She has three grandbabies, and she loves baking and making memories with them. And I can attest because hey, what's better than being a Gigi, right? She loves to travel. She goes to the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I just imagine, the big hat. I don't know. I could get down with that. And then she's also the survivor of breast cancer. And she is in the process of writing a book, which I can't wait to hear even more about. But instead of me just going on and on and on about what I think, I'm going to let her share her own story in the way that she would like to share her story. So if you'll hold on, let me get Miss White out of the background. Miss Brenda.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, my dear. How are you?
I am wonderful and so glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. I'm glad you said yes. Sometimes I know dealing with survivors of domestic abuse and sexual trauma, it's hard to share your story. Um, but it's necessary. And it's not just necessary for people out there, it's taking back your power. And so I'm just glad and happy to have you in the She Shed as we talk about your story. So I gave all the little fun facts about, us having this common denominator of being
Mhm.
grandmamas and, how we love to advocate for women, how we love to travel. And we talked about your the things that you do with breast cancer survivors and so forth. But I would love for you to just take a moment and tell us why you're here, and before you go into the story, just tell us why you're here and what you would like to see come about tonight.
Well, I'm here because this beautiful woman invited me, and which I was ecstatic about that. And domestic violence is very close to my heart. It is who I am basically. I believe in survivorship. I believe in advocacy. I believe in helping these young women of all ages and men now that are coming about, and the elderly, to know that they can get past the trauma, past the pain, and that there's life after domestic violence. And it's important to me to be that voice to make sure that they know that, because some of them hide in that silence and they just don't know that they can get out of it. They don't know the avenues. They don't know the various types of programs that are out here and the resources that are out here to really help them. So, having gone through it myself, and I know how rough it was before some of these services were even around, even came up. So now that I know and I'm involved, I feel like God allowed me to live to just do just that, and so that's what I do.
I love it. I was trying to make sure I could see the comment. So anyone, those of you that are watching the stream, if you put your comments in, we will be able to see them. But if you want us to know your name, I'm going to need you to click on the button and allow StreamYard to see your name. If you don't want to, I will definitely see it while I'm looking at my phone. Okay, so I just love the fact that um, you, like you said, when you go through something and you survive it and you heal from it, you
Mhm.
start the healing process. You want to do everything in your power to make sure that no one else experiences that.
Exactly.
And so I can attest to that as well. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
What is your that? What is your thing that you don't want any other woman to ever experience?
The fear. The fear, that's the hardest part because you are in a state of fear because you don't know. You don't know what's coming next. I know I didn't. I mean, I didn't see it coming. It wasn't like it was a history going on in my household. So I just didn't know. And that was, I was just frightened. I was traumatized, but I was frightened. But it was the fear of what's next.
Wow.
What's next? Can I handle the next?
Wow, wow, wow.
Mhm.
So for those that don't know, what is what is the that? Like tell us your story of how what it is that you're saying the that. I didn't know what was going to come next. I didn't know that you kept saying that didn't happen in our household. What is the that?
Most of the time, what I have learned in my experience, there's normally a history of domestic violence in the household. Either it is, where the husband, is linked to alcohol, or it's linked to adultery, or it's linked to anger, or the person has a mental problem. Normally, there's a reason for it, and it's a continuous thing where they have triggers, and then they just respond, and then they start the abuse. And I didn't learn that until I went to counseling myself. And it's a process. It's truly a process. And if that is just knowing, because after I was stabbed that particular night and taken to the hospital, and I get back to the story of when that happened, how that happened. The very next day, the process started. I had to go to the master's office and give a statement within 24 hours. Things like that that I just did not know I had to do. That statement had to be within 24 hours. Being in the condition that I was in, it was difficult to do that. I was still traumatized some, and plus I was wounded. So that was difficult for me.
Wow, wow. So, people are maybe, in the background saying, uh, what's going on? Like Tina, yeah, they like, what happened? Listen, come on, we nosy. We nosy.
Yeah.
We ought to know.
And it's kind of, people look at me and they say, well, how can you tell your story? I said, well, because I'm healed. When you're healed from it, you can tell it. It happened on a weekday. I was at work. I was working, and I came home from work, and I put my purse down, and I started doing some laundry. Now, 2 weeks prior to, I had learned that my now ex-husband was having an affair. So he couldn't lie out of it because I actually saw him with the female. So I just asked him to leave. And he said that he didn't want to leave, that he wasn't going to leave. And 2 weeks later, there was no argument, anything like that. He kept texting me and calling me at work, wanting to work it out. And I was like, this is over. I'm done. And so that particular day, on April the 25th of 2012, I came in from work, put my purse down, started doing laundry. And my laundry room was adjacent to my kitchen. So I always opened the sliding glass door, let fresh air in. It was April, it was beautiful outside. So I came in and I did that. And he came in right behind me and closed the door, the sliding glass door. I said, okay, that's odd. So I'm in there doing laundry, and he came in. He said, you know what? I'm tired of this. He just picked up a knife and started stabbing, just like that. No conversation, no formal warning. He just picked up and started stabbing. And he stabbed me 10 times, I know, including my face, my neck, my arm, twice in my chest, in my back. And the stab wound that I have to my left arm, he stabbed with such force, it cut the nerve in half. So I had to go through multiple surgeries and extensive therapy to just be able to use my left arm. Wow. And so he not only stabbed me, after he stabbed me, he pulled me over, drugged me over to the oven door and tied me up, put my hands behind my head, tied me up to the oven door. And then he just sit there and just watched me bleed. And I'm a woman of faith. I don't hide that. And my pastor had preached a sermon months ago saying, whenever you're confronted with a demon, all you have to do is call the name of Jesus, and that demon's going to flee. Right. And I remember that laying there in my kitchen floor, and I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And as I was saying that, he started backing up, walking backwards. He's walking backwards. And then when he saw that he thought that I was dying because I lost so much blood, he went out the front door and he had said, go out the front, he said, I got to finish you off. I got to finish you off. He wanted to make sure I was dead. So he went out the front door. When he did that, I slipped and I was able to get this hand loose. And then I just slipped and I slid and I slipped and I slid in my own pool of blood. And I was able to get to the sliding glass door. And I ran next door to my neighbor and he was standing there and he was like in shock. He's like, oh my God. And at that time, my ex-husband was standing at his truck getting a drill and a toolbox out. And I guess that was to finish me off. So my neighbor called 911 and they came and flooded the street. Prior to me going to HR for the city of Greensboro, where I worked for 30 years, I worked with police. And with most police departments, once you have worked for police, they call you family. Right. And so when a name came across the scanner, when they called 911, the dispatch, the street was just flooded. So they rushed me to the hospital and I was traumatized. I lost so much blood. Like I said before, I lost so much blood. And I remember them saying, move. We have a trauma patient here. And I was just sitting there, just laying there, just shaking. And I remember one of the detectives came by and he patted me on the leg and he said, Brenda, don't worry. We're going to take care of this. Just do what they say, do here. We're going to take care of it. So don't worry. And I started, they started stitching me up and they were talking all around me. And they were saying they need to contact my daughter. And I said, please don't contact my daughter. I didn't want her to see me like this. She had just given birth to my oldest grandchild at the time. And I just didn't want her to see me like that because I knew she was going to be traumatized to see her mother with, with all these stab wounds over her body. So the police department was very good to me. They didn't put it in the paper. On the news. They knew that my mother watched news every day, and she was in a facility here in Greensboro, and they blocked that street off until they apprehended him. They apprehended him that night about 10 o'clock. He had backtrack. When he saw that I had gotten out, he was getting the toolbox and the drill off my neighbor's truck. He then got in my car and fled. Because then he saw that I was alive. Yeah. So that night about 10 o'clock, they apprehended him. He ran into two other people, just ran into them. And total lost my car, of course. Injured those individuals as well. And that was on the 25th. And he remained incarcerated up until this day. Wow. It took 2.5 years to go to trial because that's how backlogged it was in Greensboro. And so it took 2.5 years to go to trial. And during that time is when part of my healing started. I was having to go to, oh my God, seeing so many doctors. I was seeing psychiatrists, psychologists. I was going for one-on-one counseling, group counseling. I was going to an orthopedic doctor. I was going to a physical therapist. I was going to my own private care doctor. I was just going to so many different doctors. I felt like I was in a bubble that I was just being bounced around from here to here to here. Yeah. At that time, they didn't have the resources in place that they have now. Right. So that's why when I advocate, I let them know that there are resources because they don't know that there are resources. Even going through the pandemic, they didn't know that the resources were there to help them,
Right. And well, before we go, hold on, I want to go back for a minute. I'm sorry, I had to stop.
Okay.
I need to celebrate with you because that is why you say I celebrate my second birthday.
Yes.
Because that day, that's important that people need to realize and hear that. So next year on the 25th of April, we're going to celebrate with you because now we know the story, right?
Good. Yes.
So, I want people to realize, and I'm just going to say this a little bit real quick. We need to get more to that. Those days, the change happening in your life, they was there for a reason. Celebrate.
That's right. That's right. And instead of me looking at it as a bad day or that's a gloomy day. That's what happened. No, that day happened, and that day allows me to smile the way that I smile now. That day allowed me to become healed. That day allowed me to be able to help other people, and
Yeah.
that day allowed me to have a voice.
I
And
love
so
it.
I look back on that day, not with gloom. I look back at it now, believe it or not, and I can smile about it, because had I not gone through what I went through, I wouldn't be where I am doing what I'm doing today.
I love
You know, and was it hard? Yes.
it. Hmm.
Was the struggle real? Yes. Was it difficult? You better believe it. And it was hard. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat and put a band-aid on it and make it seem like I didn't go through, because I did go through. You're going to go through a process. When you're going through domestic violence, it's a process. You're going
Yeah.
to go through it. You just have to decide where you're going to go, what you're going to do in this process. You have to be determined. Say, look, I'm not going to let it beat me. I got to beat it. And I made up in my mind, when I finally got me together, I said, I will not let another two-legged demon steal my joy. I'm going
Mm.
to live. I'm going to live happily. I'm going to live abundantly. And everything that he took from me, God doubled and tripled it.
I love what you just said. I love what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You said when I got up. Like sometimes people need to hear that. It's not if, it's when.
It's when. It's when. It's when, because it can happen, but you have to want it. You've got to put the work in order to get where you want to be. You may not know where you want to be right now, but you're going to be better than in a place better than where you are right now. So that you're going somewhere. You just don't know where, but it's not going to be where you are, because you're not going to be in that place called stuck.
Yes.
And if you do the work that has to, you've got to do the work. I'll tell all of my survivors, I don't like that terminology of victim.
Me
I
either.
do not like using that word victim at all. You are survivors. If you can wake up the very next day and you can move your arms and legs, and even if you can't move them, because I couldn't move my arm, I was still alive. And even though my brain was foggy and I was so confused and just in disbelief that this had actually happened, it was like shock to me in the trauma of going through knowing that this really did happen to me. I'm sitting here with 10 stab wounds on my body. And that day, I never went back to work again.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
And
I
20,
want to talk about that part and how you like, yeah,
yeah,
okay, let's slow down. Girl, you and I, we can talk forever and a day, but we got to condense this thing.
okay.
So you just said something amazing again. Um, you had to stop and you had to say, you know what? Where do I want to go from here?
Mm-hmm,
What do I want this to look like?
mm-hmm,
And you said I had to get up and I had to say, this is not the way I want this to end.
mm-mm.
This is not the end for me.
No, no, no.
So if there's a woman out there that is in a situation, and maybe it's not, to the extent of what happened, but we all know that there's so many different forms of
Mhm,
abuse. And
mhm.
just because he don't lay hands on you, that still can be abuse.
That's
But
right.
if she's in that place, because like you said, you had no idea it was coming,
Right.
what would you say to her?
Get out. Don't stay. Leave. Because a lot of them won't. They think they can't. And they are frightened to believe that they can't, because they are put under such tightness until they feel that it's see, domestic violence is nothing but power and control. If you look at that wheel, it's nothing but power and control. And when that individual, be it male, female, whomever, has that kind of control, then you don't feel like you can do anything. And that's not true, because you can. There's a way, and every situation is different. As you just stated, it's not always physical. It can be verbal, it can be mental, it can be emotional, it can be financial. All of that ties in one, because I've had one to tell me, well, I can't leave because he pays all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
I can't leave because he pays my phone bill. I
Mm-hmm.
can't leave because he'll, take my children from me. I
Right.
can't leave. All I hear is I can't, can't.
It's a fear. It's a fear,
It's the
right?
fear.
It's a
It's
fear.
the fear. And it's because you don't know that you can. You don't know that there's life after that, and that he's just one individual, one thing that's stopping you, but you don't know that there's a way out. Sitting back when you can get with a survivor, and you can plan a safe plan to move. You know,
Right.
when you can make that safety plan to get out, it takes some time, and a lot of times it can't be family.
Exactly.
It can't
Exactly.
be family.
There's this thing that, I often say, we have to realize a person they cannot create an exit plan until they can see themselves outside of that problem.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so often we'll say, you should just leave, you should just leave. But it's not always that easy.
No,
They have been groomed
mhm.
to believe that they can't do certain things.
That's
And I
right.
think that's one of the things that's key. But unfortunately, you wasn't in that. But you said, so let's go into you moving and leaving this job now. So you said that was the last time you went to work.
That was the
Tell us
last
about
day
that.
I worked for the city of Greensboro. I worked there for 30 years, and I never thought that my retirement would be like that. I thought that I would be able to retire when I wanted to. And that situation was taken from me. You know, I was fortunate that I had 30 years in because I started when I got out of college. I started there, and like I said, I started in the police department, and then after 5 years, I went to the HR department. That's where I ended up retiring from. But I could no longer, because what I was doing, I was teaching modules of to hiring officials and police captains and sergeant exams, and teach them how to hire the most suited employee. Well, I could no longer type. And
Mm.
at that time, they didn't have the feature where you could speak into it, So, and then mentally, I was not in a place where I could really function and concentrate and do the job that I did before and do it to the best of my ability. I was not there. So that day was the last day that I worked. I remember having to have a friend go with me there to clean my office out. Because when it was determined that I was not going to be able to come after having the surgery and the therapy and talking to my psychiatrist, who was wonderful. And we'll talk about that in a minute too, because people think they don't need that. That's one of the worst things to do.
Yes.
But me seeking therapy was one of the better things I could have ever done, because that really helped me to get from point A to point B. I didn't think so at the time,
Yeah.
but I cleaned my office out, and that's when I said, okay, here we go again. That's something else I got to do. I had to get acclimated to the fact that I'm never retiring, and I waited until after everybody had gone home, and I met with the young lady there in the department that did the retirement work. And because I didn't want anybody to see me, I almost became a recluse. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So I didn't want anyone to see me because I was bandaged up so bad, and filled my paperwork out so that I could retire. And that was my day, and that was hard for me. It really was, because I felt like that was taken away from me. Less than 24 hours on April the 25th of 2012, I no longer went back to work. I couldn't go into my home that I bought
Wow.
because it was a crime scene, and I didn't have a vehicle.
Wow.
It was total. I don't have any relatives that live here in Greensboro, so I felt very much alone. I had good friends, and during the time that I was married, he didn't want me to have any friends. He
Yeah.
wanted me to just be with him. And
Yeah.
had I cast my friends aside, where would I have been? Because that's where I had to stay after, I was released from the hospital. And mind you, I didn't stay in the hospital overnight. I was released that morning about 4 o'clock.
Look at God. Like, okay. Yeah.
He was
So
working then. He was working then, not anymore.
yeah, he was working it out even then. So I
He
want to talk about that because, like, we take that for granted. But one of the things that you just said, and I want to make sure that someone out there hears that,
Mm-hmm.
you said if he wanted to isolate you.
Oh yeah.
He wanted to isolate you so that you would have to totally and solely depend on him. That
Right.
was part of that grooming process
That's
to
part of
get
that
you to
control.
that point. Mm-hmm.
That control. Yeah. To that, and he said, well, your friends want what you want. They want a husband and they want to be happy, and I can make you sad and I can make you cry. I can make you cry and I can make you happy. I can do both. And if I had a small mind to believe the kind of things that he was saying, and so many people they are so in love until they are just blinded by anything they say. Well, I must not have been in love because I wasn't blinded by it. I wasn't blinded by it. I didn't, he would say things to kind of try to knock my self-esteem down. That didn't work. I said, you got to talk to somebody that don't have their head on right. That didn't get me. But that was because of his insecurities and where he was, and the problems that he had.
Exactly. And it's such a powerful thing. Like you said, you did have that confidence. And like
Mm-hmm.
you're very right. A lot of times, survivors don't have
Mm-hmm.
that confidence. And most of the time, abusers will prey on that,
Oh
on the
yeah.
fact that you
Oh yeah.
don't have that confidence.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And which I also believe is why it was probably a sneak attack with
Mm-hmm.
you, is because he knew he had to catch you off guard.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess we want to make sure that we're realizing and understanding and helping anyone that's out there. You don't have to live like that.
No, you don't.
You don't have to live in a constant
Yeah.
fear. And so you retired from your job. And so
Mm-hmm.
now we know that you are in the process of writing a book, and we're going to get there. But when you made that decision, like, how did you transition? Because even still, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Mm-hmm.
even though you are out and you're not, that's not a problem. He's locked up, dot, dot, dot. There's still some residual things going on in your head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that, what that looks like?
First of all, I want to make sure that when we went to, okay, let's go back to the trial. The trial was a week long trial. And as I said, it took 2.5 years to get there. All the healing, all the training, all of that kind of just went out the door when he walked in.
Mhm.
And that's when it started. At that time, my hand was still in a apparatus to keep it held up, because I couldn't hold it down. And so it
And
took a
this was
whole.
2 years later.
This was 2.5 years later, and it took a full day, to even select a jury. A full day. It took just that long. That whole week was so draining to me. And I had a lot of friends that came from out of town to be with me, so I had a great support system. Um, I learned of family service with the Piedmont, and they were supportive. I had some counseling there, group therapy there, and they were there with me as well. The detective that was on the case, they were there, and the police officer that was on the case, they were right there beside me, and which was great. Um, I was the first person on the stand, and that was difficult. My attorney had prepared me for that day. She had taken me into an empty courtroom and threw some questions at me, trying to prepare me. But that day of the first day, all that just went out the window. And I didn't. A box of Kleenex didn't do me good. I had a hand job with me because I cried every day. And long story short, at the end of the week, he got 49 and a half years without parole, with the sentencing being consecutive. He has to complete the 20 years for the attempted murder. Then he has to complete the 11 years for the kidnapping because tying me up, and then for stealing the car and then hitting the other people. So all that was consecutive, and seeing that it's just been 11 years. So he hasn't even put a dent in it yet. That's the one thing that I want to make sure that, because in a lot of cases, now, mine was attempted murder. In a lot of cases, they're a lot worse than mine, and they're hurt worse, and they don't get as much time.
Oh, wow.
So, because of all of the evidence that they had, and the nature of how he did it, they took my phone, his phone, they downloaded everything, so they had all this evidence, and that's what geared toward all those years,
Wow. Wow.
of the sentencing. That was one thing that I was really concerned about, how many years he would get, in prison, and if he would get out and possibly try to harm me again and blame me for him being incarcerated. I was concerned about that, but I don't think I have that to be concerned with. I really don't think. I mean, I'll be in glory long before he even, can get out.
Yeah. And so, but it's amazing. Like you were saying, you turned this around. And so now you go into the courtrooms with
Mhm,
women that are with
mhm.
survivors.
Right.
And you talk to these women, and you help the community to know about domestic
Mhm.
violence and its effects. What else are you doing right now?
Well, just finishing up one case, and it took long. It was a long case of just trying to get the protective order in place. You'd be surprised how long that takes. Um, We have two centers here. We have one in High Point and we have one in Greensboro. And if you're there by 8 in the morning, normally you can see the judge by 12 to hopefully be granted that protective order. And if not, you have to come back the next Monday or the next Tuesday, whatever day they have it set aside. I'm a member of the co-chair of the Voices Committee with the Family Justice Center, and what we are doing is trying to advocate for a DV court. That is much needed. You'd be surprised at the judges that are on the stand, and I tell people, be mindful come election time exactly who you're voting for, because
That's
you have
right.
some people who really are not for it.
That's
They don't
right.
care,
That's right.
and believe it or not, you have some who are in high positions who are abusers.
That's
You'd be
right.
surprised about that as well. And I've learned that, and it really gets to my gut when I hear about that, and I hear that there are individuals who are out, who are in, because of where they live and because of their socioeconomic status, they won't come forth, and they are choosing to be abused, every day, knowing that they could get out of it, but they don't want the naysayers in the neighborhood to know, and they don't want the people in their church community to know, and they don't want the people in the working environment to know that they're actually going through that. So they're staying in those type of toxic environments. And it's sad to say, Tina, but one day someone is going to get seriously hurt. If
Yeah,
not,
it is. I mean, and I mean, so you said a lot right there, but I want to make sure that we are understanding, when we say things like they're choosing to stay, you do have a choice.
you
But a
do.
lot of times you don't feel like you have a choice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just be real about that. When
Mm-hmm.
you are in there and you have been groomed
Mm-hmm.
and you don't feel like you have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to realize and understand that every morning you wake up with an opportunity and a choice.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And
And if you
so
choose
you
to
have to be
stay,
willing to step out of that, of what scares you. And you was talking earlier, you were saying how, and this is what I was trying to remember. You had to go through a process. You had to get through the sadness of it, the shock of it, the anger of it. It's a grieving period.
it
Like,
is.
you went through a pure
Yeah.
grieving
Yes.
period.
Yes.
And that is exactly what people don't realize is when, because when a woman leaves an abusive relationship, she leaves 7 times before she actually leaves
That's right.
on
That's right.
average,
That's
right?
right. That's
And
right.
a lot of times it's because we don't want to go through the grieving process of it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's that fear.
It's the fear.
It's
It's
that
the fear, and it's not knowing.
that there you go. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not knowing.
It's not knowing.
Not knowing.
Because
Because you
somebody else
don't
will
know.
say, well, I'm not scared. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to expect.
Right. And you don't know.
And
Because
you
I
don't
didn't know.
know, but you
I
don't
didn't
know staying.
I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect, and every situation is different. What happened to me and what happened to the next person is totally different. Their court cases is totally different. The evidence is totally different.
Right.
It's just totally different, and you've got to, I've gone sometimes to court, and then they get in there, and once they see that individuals, I want to drop it. I
Yes.
want to drop
Yes.
it.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
But we want to encourage and say, that is not the time to drop it. And it is scary. It is really, really, really scary. Don't get it twisted. It's scary.
mm-hmm,
But then
mm-hmm,
it's not the time, because the truth of the matter is, as advocates, what we see is that every time you drop it and you come back before that judge is going to say they're going to drop it. And
right.
so they begin to think that it's not. And you're teaching that person how to treat you.
That's right.
So they're
That's
not
right.
believing what you say.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. You're exactly right. And then they think, well, why should we grant you another protective order when you went against the one that we had, and we're back here again? And I tried to tell them, I said, be mindful. I said, I know that this is hard, and I know that it's stressful, and I know that, you don't want to go through and you want it to all be over. I said, but you've got to understand it's part of the process. And at the end of the process. It won't look like it looks now. I said, but you've got the strength to do it. You have to coach them along. You've got the strength to do it. You can do this. And if you've got children involved, do it for your child too, because your child is being a part of this. They're seeing it, and you don't want them to grow up thinking that this is a normal way of living.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
and so many, that happens with the children too, which makes it, that's a different layer, you know, you see. And as for me, going back to what I said about being a recluse, going through that process of the fear and not knowing, I would go to my doctors, I would go to pick up my prescriptions, I would go to the grocery store, and I would be back home. Everything was done before 12. I didn't want anybody to see me. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I was close to becoming a recluse. And my psychiatrist said, I'm so afraid that you're going to become a recluse. I need you to get out. I need you to get out. So I would start doing little things like taking myself out to lunch, you know. Then I was afraid I was going to see someone in his family, you know. So God was working again. I moved from the house, which broke my heart because I bought that home. And I went all the way across town. And I had a friend who said, I have a condo available. Do you want to go over there? And I said, I don't know if I can or not, because here's the financial piece. Because I was legally married to him, he took my credit down. I
Mm.
had to build back up again. But when I tell you God will bring you back up, where he took that one car, now I have two.
Come on.
Okay? When he took me from that one house, he put me in a condo, then back in a house. You
Come
see,
on.
so if you're faithful and if you know that what you're doing is right, you stay faithful, you stay that course. And on my business card, I have Ezekiel 16:6. It says, as I passed by and saw you waddle in your own pool of blood, I said, live. So you got to want to live. You got to want it. And that's what I always advocate to my people. I said, look, you got to want it. If you want it, I'm there with you. Come on, let's do this thing. Let's get in this fight. Let's do this thing and make this thing work. Okay. I said,
Yes.
let's just do this. I said, come on. I said, I'm there with you. If you need to call me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because you're having a meltdown, if you got to call me in the afternoon, you got to take a break from work or whatever because you're second guessing and wondering what's happening and you're frightened and people are in your ear and all that kind of stuff. Give me a call.
That's
You
right.
know, that's what advocacy is about. It's not about just the pretty part of it after it's all over. No, no, no. Let's go through this rough side of the hill. You know,
That's right.
it's the rough side of the mountain that we got to get across. You know, and it's going to be rough. I'm going to tell you, it's going. I don't sugarcoat it for them, Tina, because it's going to be rough. You're
That's
going to
right.
have some times when you're going to be crying. You're going to have some times when you can't eat. You're going to have some times when you are so angry. Because when I went to my group therapy, I was one of the worst people you could ever want to meet. And the therapist there, she was a patient. I sit outside. It took me 4 times to go in that door. I sit outside, and my daughter had it set up. She knew when all my appointments were. And she said, Mama, she says, if you don't go in there, I'm coming to get you. You can move here with me. I said, I don't want to do that. She
Mm.
says, you got to go in there. It took me 4 times to go into that group therapy. And when I went in, I did not cooperate. I said, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want anybody talking to me. I'm here because I was told I need to be here. I don't want to be here because how can you tell me how I'm supposed to feel? I got the staff rooms, you don't. So you can't tell me how I'm supposed to feel. That was the anger, see.
Right.
And do you not know that was the best thing I could have ever done?
Yep.
She was so patient with me. And she says, okay, you don't have to talk. You don't have to participate. It's okay. But I realized I was among other women who were going through the same thing I was going through, just a different
Just a
situation.
different way. Yeah.
But the pain was pain and abuse is abuse. I don't care. Abuse is abuse. And they were going through the same thing, and we bonded and we started, helping each other heal. And, I met some that was on the run because, she would dye her hair different colors because she didn't want to be found. And I mean, I learned that there were so many people going through so many things, and it made mine look like nothing. So when
Mm.
I saw that there are people here, right here, in town with me going through pain, I said, you know what? I'm not by myself. but they're in pain just like me, you know,
Wow.
just like me. They're in
Wow.
pain too. And that right there was just one little hurdle that I went across that helped me to get, on my path of
Yeah.
healing. That was
Yeah.
that was my first step. And
Yeah.
then I didn't give up going to my therapy because that was important as well.
Right.
The psychiatrist, I went to one psychologist, it didn't work. So I had to tell one of my survivors who's going through counseling. She said, it's not working for me. I said, well, you know what? There are several others.
That's right. That's right. I love that you said, let's go back for a minute because it's be so juicy. I just be all in it. And I don't want to stop you. But
Okay.
you said that you realized, oh, what did you say? You said you realized that um
I wasn't by myself.
I wasn't by myself. No, you said that your pain,
Mm-hmm.
that your pain wasn't that somebody else was going through the pain just like you. But
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you did not disregard your pain.
No, because it's there,
Yes.
and you got to deal with it. If and you can't cover it up. You've got to deal with it. And I feel, at least I know now, when I was going through being in that reclusive state, I was getting me together here. I was thinking about all of what I'd gone through, all the move from my home, the move to the new place. And when I went into the condo, my daughter said, "Mom, it's an open canvas. It can be exactly how you want it to be. It doesn't have to be like the house with the piano in it and the Queen Anne furniture. It don't have to be that way. It can be just like you want it to be." And that's what I did. I just made it me. I made it smell like me. I made it look like me. I just did something totally different. And I found myself getting up and going to yard sales and going to the Goodwill stores and going here and going there and getting little things to just spruce up this little condo that I had.
Yeah.
And that helped me too. So it's another little hurdle because it was a new place for me. And then I learned that because some of my furniture had blood on it, there's an organization that will help you get furniture when you're going through a crisis like that. You see, so I learned of so many things, and they just swapped out what I had and brought that to me. So see, that
Wow.
was something new. You see, so there here again, the resources that are out there,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that we have to really make sure and we understand. And that's one of the reasons why, we have committed to this work to really make sure that we are allowing, anyone, any
Mhm,
survivor, anyone that is actually going through this process,
mhm.
there are resources.
Oh yeah.
And so Brenda is actually writing a book now. So tell us about this book because I know that it's going to help some people, and we want to make sure that we support you so that it is a bestseller.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us
I'm
about this
hoping
book that you have.
I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of 2023. It's been a journey because it's just taken me some time to really put it all together. But I think it's going to be interesting trying to come up with a title. I'm throwing around some titles for it, and some chapters and things like that. And that's kind of the fun part. But what I really liked, is going back, being able to put all those thoughts to pen and paper and it not be painful.
Yes.
To put it to pen and paper. And the thing that I want most out of my book is to reach those individuals who are going through to know that there's life after. I wanted to be some joy at the end.
Come
My
on.
story can be such a horrific story and such a goric story because of the blood and all of that. But even though it was ugly, it's still a beautiful thing on the outs on the at the end because it has a beautiful ending because I'm living.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so
And I
that's
love
that's the
I
beauty in it.
yes. And I just love how you tell it. Like when you're telling your story, you tell, yeah, this happened, but
Mm-hmm.
but and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things that really pulled me to you was like, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
happened. It was
Mm-hmm.
horrible. It was
Mm-hmm.
horrible.
Oh
This is
yeah.
what happened.
Oh
But
yeah.
here I am now. And we have to get to that point that we remember
Mm-hmm.
that it
Mm-hmm.
happened for you, not to you.
That's
It
right.
changed you. And I think you and
It
I was
did.
talking one time before, and we were saying how, now you're out. You're out and you're just flying around. So
Yeah.
I cannot let this go by. So many of you don't know. So Brenda, you have this is do going on. Yeah, all sassy and your sassiness. Why you got all this sassiness going on with you? Because
well, well, when you're going through something as horrific as that, you want to feel beautiful. You want to feel like, you got together, and you don't look what you've been through. And I said, well, I've got to change my hairstyle. I had to learn to make it work for me. So I can be the diva that I want to be. I call me a diva. I don't care if anybody else called me a diva. They
yeah,
don't have to call me a diva. I think I'm a diva because
yeah,
I am who I am. I know my worth. I know that God allowed me to live to be a blessing among blessings to everyone. I only seek beautiful things like butterflies and peacocks. Those are my themes, because they're full of color, and they just flutter and just lay. And peacocks just open their wings up and they just go. I mean, my whole den is full of peacocks. I just love it.
oh
My
wow,
keychain got peacocks on it. So
wow,
um, having to go through that, Tina, and then, with the therapy, learning how to tie my shoe again, learning how to peel an apple or orange again. I remember the first time I peeled an orange and I was like, oh my God, I actually could peel it, an apple with a knife. Because for a long time, I didn't want to see a knife. I had to get past that. I didn't want to have knives in my house. I just didn't want to see a knife. I had to get past that. But to tie my shoe, and you never know how, what's going to happen to you to cause you to have to go through a change like that. And who would have thought
mm,
that at my age that I would have to learn to tie my shoe all over again, or
mm,
to learn how to put a bra on, or to learn how to dress, period. I can't do zippers. It's hard for me to button. I can't wear shoes that have a buckle on it. They have to have a Velcro or just a step-in pump, and I had to adjust my life to that. So when I'm buying clothing, if I can put it over my head, I'm fine. But as far as a zipper, if I can zip it and still get it over my head, I'm okay. But
right,
as far as zipping, I can't zip and I can't buckle.
wow,
And I'm okay with that. I just know that I can't do it. But I mean, I
yeah.
still can wear a shoe.
Yeah. But
You know,
honey, you still showing that divalicious thing going on. You got it going on. I think everybody, yeah, somebody already said yes, diva. So
thank
yes,
you,
you
thank
got
you,
it
thank you.
going on. You got
Good,
it going on. And
good,
I
good, good.
just
And I
so
want to. I want to. I want to continue to do that. And people
yeah,
often ask me, they say, well, do you hate? I've had young girls, like when I've spoken at colleges, and I really, really like going into the college areas because they just deal with so much
they do.
date rape and all this kind of stuff. It's really terrible on the college campuses, and we've been rallying, trying to do some things there too. But they said, well, Miss B, do you not like men now because that happened to you? And I said, no, that's not true. I said, that was one man. I
Right.
said, so I refuse to let one person control the rest of my life or the possibility of being happy with someone else. I said,
That's
I
right.
was just, unfortunately, I was just married to the wrong person.
That's right.
But that does not cause me to have a dislike for men or to hate men or to think that every man that I come in contact with is abusive, because that's not true. And now we've got men who are coming to the center who are being abused, and that used to be unheard of, but that's what's happening now. You froze up on me.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can. You're back now.
Okay. That was so interesting. I just disappeared. I couldn't see me. I couldn't see me. So, but what we want to do is I'm sorry about that. Um, how can people get in contact with you?
You can give my email address. You can put that down in the chat, and you can also give my phone number. I have no problem in them having my number and just give me a call.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll put it in the show notes and everything so that
Okay.
it will be on the thing. So
Okay.
I just want to say thank you. I look forward to working with you on
Yes.
some other
Yes.
things. And
Yes.
so if you'll hold on for me for one moment, I'm gonna close this out. Give me a
Okay.
moment. All right, so y'all heard it firsthand. Was she a diva? I mean, she just got that. She just make you want to feel like you. She just make you feel like you can do anything. And one of the things that I really, really, really love about Brenda is the fact that she tells it like it is. She don't hold back anything. To me, she's the definition of a boss. Bold, optimistic, strategic, and self-reliant. And y'all know, as when you are going in that and you are living your life as the CEO of your life,